Good morning.
Morning, Adam.
How are you, Mary?
Really good. How about yourself?
Fabulous.
Good.
Yeah, good. I did just start the recording button. This is a public meeting, so wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
And for the record, can I get who is on the line with the phone number ending in 68?
Hi, this is Deb Poteet.
Oh, hi, Deb. I saw you twice. Your name is also on there, so I wasn't sure. Thanks so much.
Yeah, my audio's not working here, so.
Gotcha.
Okay.
We'll plan to start promptly at 10:30. And then I'm gonna do my level best. I even scheduled a meeting at 11:30, so I will need to be done on time today. Big fan of punctuality anyway. Morning, Bo.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you bet. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning.
I've got two on my screen today. That's fantastic. Well, we're going to get started. It's 10:30. And I just real quickly will run through. We've got Bo and Mary and Adam, Deb Poteet. So, Mary, are you representing Superintendent Arnson, or is she planning to be here today? Oh, no, that's not her. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Mary.
Oh, Mary Armstrong? No, I'm not associated with.
No, and Mary Heller is not representing, Superintendent Arnson has decided not to designate anyone, and so Mary is just here representing her role at the OPI.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
The other Mary.
Sorry about that. I'll be more clear when I call Mary this next time.
Mary Heller, did I capture that okay while you were on mute?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Perfect. Well, we'll get started. I'll call this meeting to order. And a couple of things as we're beginning here. I think just as more setting expectations. We are an ad hoc committee of the SWIB board established to kind of provide feedback and continue to move forward with some actionable goals that could be recommended first to the board in general, and then potentially on as recommendations to the governor. We are not a policy committee, a policy setting committee, but more of a recommendation and advisory role to both the board and, in the process, the governor's office and that effort. So, as we look at talking with our chair, Chair Hopoff, having an opportunity to get a couple of smaller groups together focused on a few different areas, ours being the Education, Training, and Upskill Committee for the SWIB board, to talk about where we might find some actionable opportunities, both for this committee and potentially for the board. And so I kind of put in the notes here first, just a review quick over the board goals. First, to engage the public workforce and talent development system to respond to business needs for the skilled workers, encourage alignment among workforce development, post-secondary education, and economic development partners, and advance workforce development policies by providing recommendation to the governor and other state leaders to support economic and workforce development efforts in the state. So I thought it's always just a good opportunity to start with kind of the purpose of why we're here and understand, we may find ourselves jumping down a rabbit hole or two in this process. But as we think about where we're headed and what we're trying to accomplish, keeping those things in mind as we start. If it's good for everybody, I think I'd like to just jump right into kind of that first piece of more of an open discussion about maybe what challenges we're seeing across the states and the areas we're in, both for our communities and businesses when we think about the workforce. And would really like to just open that conversation up more broadly. And it can be challenges, and then obviously we'll blend into what maybe some of the opportunities could be to improve readiness for the workforce in Montana. So if there's someone who'd like to start, I've got a few things, but I'd just as soon I'll wait a little later in the conversations.
I can start a little bit. I'm not on mute, right? Okay, good. So one of the things that I have been under the impression, and I would like some clarification on this to see if I'm on the right track. I think our it seems to me in my past years of experience, the biggest workforce need are in those heavy duty skilled trade areas. So heavy construction, highway construction, building trades, welders, manufacturing, those types of that arena, that world, as well as our healthcare. And now, am I correct in that? Does anybody know, or is it all across the board? I mean, it just seems like that's the heaviest areas, but I don't know if I'm right.
I think
This is-
generally speaking, depending on where you're at, like even rural versus more urban, I would say that I would think that the state data that we have as far as from Department of Labor, Barb Wagner, that type of stuff, I say we always we kind of identify it as high need, high wage jobs. Those it's always healthcare and vertical and horizontal construction are always the ones that have been at the top of those lists for the last 4 or 5 years. And I think it's both in both urban and rural areas that's true, whether it's a long-term care facility, a critical access hospital, or a Billings clinic, Bozeman clinic, that type of Bozeman Deaconess, that type of setting.
That's okay. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track, because the work that I'm doing and putting together, and for the purpose, of course, of being involved with SWIB, is, directly, those are the areas that seem to be the focus for me as well. So. And then with that, I'm going to add another piece. From what I'm understanding, in all of the years I've worked with employers and the information they've told me, as well as surveys that we've read across, like the Montana Chamber did that survey. Other people have done surveys, not just in Montana, but across the nation. Another area that we're really weak on are the employability skills, or as a lot of people like to call them, soft skills. So we need to look at that as a piece of, not only do we need to build a workforce, but we need to build quality workforce. So those employability skills we need to take a serious look at. And I'm pretty sure is it safe to say that everybody would be in agreement with me on that?
I do, with a small caveat from an educational standpoint. I think this has come up for ever since I started. I've dealt with it in the apprenticeship program previously. The one thing I want to make sure it's guiding us, or my advice to guide us, is that you don't teach. How do I want to say this? The best educational impact on those types of employability skills are through experiences and through actual employment, not necessarily in a classroom. The classroom sets the foundation and reinforces it. You can't, classroom teachers can't teach. They can teach employability skills until they're blue in the face, but until the student is actually out there in the actual experience and they get to actually, develop that, that's where it's got to kind of be about the work-based learning experiences as how we develop that in collaboration with education and business partners, not necessarily, oh, the schools need to teach this, or, oh, hey, businesses, you need to, needs to be your focus. It's kind of I see it more as a collaborative effort than something that one entity or the other does in a silo.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you a little bit on that, Bo. I think it can be taught, maybe not in a classroom, but in a school environment, utilizing our CTSOs, because that's what they're supposed to do. But I totally agree with you too, that there's the collaboration of working with employers on that. Totally agree with you on that.
And I would echo this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Deb has got her hand up, and I appreciate the hand wave. So is it this topic, Deb, or would you like to are you looking at another one?
No, it's this topic. So I've been trying to work with the Missoula College on getting just a truck mechanic. We have 100 trucks all over the state, and just getting a truck mechanic through the Missoula College, the internship or apprenticeship program, the administration's happy to try to get something set up, but we're running into a situation, I've been asking for 2 months and they really can't find any of the students that want to participate in something like this, which I find really bizarre. But that's the only way. I went through an apprenticeship program to operate heavy equipment a long time ago, and it was the only way I would be marketable was to actually, I worked for Washington Corp and Hildy Corporation out of Great Falls years ago, and with those skills that I obtained, I was able obviously to move on and start my business. But the classroom is, valuable for the safety and the basic techniques, but the field experience and the on-site experience and knowledge that you gain is, you can't replace it with, the classroom experiences. And that's what shows up on resumes when people come and talk to us about working is, how many hours, how many years they've spent in the field on projects.
Yeah, and that identifying the pipeline component of this is really, I think, a critical aspect of how do we create that interest with both young people coming through the public education system, but also in the greater population in general. I think that's a very valid component of, you can build incredible programs. If no one shows up for them, you don't really get very far. So, Brock,
And,
sorry about that, Deb.
just going through the high schools, there's a lot of these young people that don't really want to go to college. They want to jump right into the workforce. And, I think they're having a hard time trying to figure out where to go and to channel these people into whatever occupation they might want, or maybe a 2-year college or something that would more align with their interests is where we need to be going.
Yeah. Brock, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me here. I'm here representing the university system, and I think, gosh, such a good start to the conversation. I would add kind of tech, IT, cybersecurity to growing sectors in Montana. It's not equal to, I think, the trades and health, but we're seeing more and more of that in terms of the outreach we're getting from business and industry. In terms of the employability skills, yeah, I think it's got to be happening in multiple areas. I guess without being too direct about it, I'd say it starts actually with hopefully home life and the kinds of responsibility and respectfulness and time management and discipline that kids are learning as they grow up. We know that's not always the case in all homes, but that's one arena. Another arena is definitely having to, put their foot in the door with an actual workplace environment and figuring out what they need to do to be successful and function well in that environment. But I do think whether it's in the classroom or generally in the school environment, in secondary, post-secondary, learning things like discipline, time management, showing up to class, learning how to listen, how to work through conflict in a way that doesn't, explode. That stuff happens in an educational setting as well. And certainly if you think about writing, communication, critical reasoning, these things that, might help someone understand what to do if there's a chemical spill on the floor. That stuff happens in the educational setting as well. And I would argue that's one of the great advantages of getting some of these students in the pipeline, even through a short-term credential. So I don't really like the fact that we talk about our 2-year colleges, because actually most of what our 2-year colleges do now is less than 2 years. And so that's a good thing. But some of that short-term training is really invaluable, not just because of the technical skills, but because of the employability skills. In the pipeline is the challenge. And Deb, you're right. We built all sorts of fantastic programs, and we say, look, if you go down this route and you get this certificate or this associate's, you'll start at $83,000 a year. And there's great potential for advancement, and it's interesting work. And you still are like scratching and clawing just to get enough students interested. Now, that speaks nothing of how hard it is to get people interested in like the teaching profession now, where, the work is hard and the pay is low. So the pipeline issue is a challenge across the board. I think that's something we really need to address. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate that, Brock. I've been spending quite a bit of time, obviously partnering with Bo and Billings here, but we were in the Ronan High School the last 2 days, in an event very similar to this, supported by the Montana Chamber, to expose young people to what careers might look like. And, I think your comment on technology is greater than just the tech sector. It is really how I think, and this is me talking, but I think technology is the way we can help engage the next generation in a whole bunch of different industries. It's sweeping agriculture. Construction is seeing a tech wave. I've got a remote control skid steer outside the store right now. Autonomy is coming to John Deere agriculture and many others. And it is a place I think we can meet young people where their interests are. And it's in a number of places. So I think I would certainly be an advocate that technology component, that innovation component, help make a compelling case to come change the way we do business in Montana, across the country, as technology and innovation are kind of a really important components to what we do. Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to mention one of the things I think should guide this work, or what I would like to guide this work, is the networking aspect for students. I think Brock kind of talked about it with like the home, like you can't control the home life. That's where a lot of that like career conversation takes place. And so something I think that's been important and or something that's really worked is finding out ways to expose students to different careers and areas that they might not know, because mom's a lawyer, dad's a doctor, but kid's interested in construction. That can be a networking problem. Not to mention I have a single parent, and my mom is or dad is working this job in this area, so that's kind of where I'm gravitating towards a career. I think a big part of a way to equalize that is providing through the school systems, through other entities. We always say we'll introduce you to the people that you need to know. We'll help you find, try to scratch that area of interest. And then our job is to just keep opening doors for you. I think that's something that has been it's a challenge, because a lot of students are limited to what their family can network them to. But there's ways that if we do this work right, I think it really equalizes that playing field between, we all know it's who you know, but it's not so much, hey, it's who mom and dad know, who grandpa and grandma know. It's somewhat our community. We're the connectors that can kind of get them to where they need to go. And then I'm maybe a little Pollyanna here, but I think you'll find a happier workforce when the student is interested in something, and you keep opening doors for them. They're not going to be in a, there's tons of people, I think, in every industry where they're there because that's what was available to them, or that's how they could get networked there. And then there's other kids that are sitting in another type of industry that would be perfect in, say, construction, where I just think that's part of what you're seeing probably out there with just like retaining employees. I think if we do this right on the front end, you'll see a lot of people who are doing things that they're enjoying, not just what they feel like they have access to. So.
Yeah, and can we do it in a way, and you can feel free to tell me I'm off base here, but it doesn't need to be a fight between higher education, the trades, and the 2-year program. Learning really happens throughout our lives, and the foundational nature of education is to teach someone how to learn, not so much that they learn everything in school, but that they create a sense of intrigue and interest and passion around new things, new ideas, and new ways to think about things. And building that as you leave whatever level of education might not be an end point in education. It could just be the beginning. That lifelong learning component of this hopefully can unite all aspects. I know there are obvious conversations about resources that happen and that type of thing, but I think foundationally for the Workforce Innovation Board, a belief that this lifelong learning component takes different pathways. And a great example right now, we had a young man who went through our first phase of Build Montana in Billings. He really wasn't probably considering at all college. And he found an opportunity where he found interest in running a haul truck for Knife River, and did that for the last 12 months, but just told them now that because of this effort and the work he's done, he's going to go on to college now. And, and some of our folks in the heavy equipment world may view that negatively as a lost opportunity. And I personally see it as you just created a stepping stone for someone to continue to grow and be a real responsible citizen in the state. And if that education path, it might lead him back to be a construction superintendent. Heck, he might own his own construction company at some point in time. But the opportunity he found in the process helped him along the way. And as we look at it collectively, I think it's really important that it's not a fight between those efforts, that they can all work together.
On that note, Adam, I think that is something that's been missing all across the board, and I've seen it for years. I think there's been too much of folks not working together, and it's, RDO competes with, C&B, and one industry like the diesel industry is going to compete against the automotive industry. And I think to tackle this 40+ year view that the 4-way is the only way to go, which is what a lot of parents, that's a lot of what we're still dealing with, because a lot of these parents are, really pushing kids to still go to that one route. I think another thing that we can look at is the collaboration across the whole board, all industries. The automotive industry helps the cybersecurity industry and the construction industry, the heavy equipment and building construction and healthcare, and everybody stands up and we put the same message out. That I totally agree with you. Lifelong learning it takes lots of different pathways, and what is right for one, if somebody wants to do an apprenticeship and move forward in that direction, and halfway through it decide they want to go and into a 2-year or a 4-year institution, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think everybody needs to be on the same page. So somehow or another, if we can get that message out there where everybody's giving that same message, if I'm making any sense.
Welcome, Quentin. So I'm hearing thematically a focus around, maybe a priority focus around a few industries. And I think that aligns the governor's strategy, what he's communicated about, about obviously the infrastructure efforts in the state, and healthcare certainly being significant priorities. So what opportunities do we see in those two that we should be? And I'm wholeheartedly in this tech IT cybersecurity piece. I think we could weave that all into the process, but maybe we flesh out a little more where would we like to see this committee focus in those areas? What opportunities are out there?
Adam, one idea won't be new to anyone in this group, but thinking about our early college or dual enrollment opportunities throughout the state, and seeing if we can build out some more structured sequences of courses for students, so that while they may not have an associate's degree, because that's kind of unrealistic for most students, maybe a 4 or 5 course sequence that would be a certificate or a micro credential in one of these areas in the trades or in one of the allied health fields. So if they could leave high school with that, and for some of them, maybe they go on to finish an associate's degree at a 2-year college. But for others who want to enter the workforce directly, they can do that. They can have some of the skills in hand, and they don't have to, in their minds, waste any time or spend any more time than necessary, before they're making money in a job. And so right now we do 2 courses for free. We support that. We do it internally. That comes out of, university system budget. It would be great for us to maybe look at a scenario where for a set of, 6 or 7 high demand sequences, we could get some state support so that students could do that at no cost while they're still in high school. They could be earning those credits, and then it's up to them. Go to college or go straight into the workforce.
I really am glad that you brought that up, Brock. I would like to talk to you more on that because of some of the work that I'm doing for the OPI with the work-based learning that we're putting together, which is directly involved with Montana Ready and some of the things that I totally see that working together.
Yeah. And Bo, as we think about the efforts and that we're working on, we brought in some industry training curriculum, both from Caterpillar and from John Deere, and are working on Komatsu and a few other places. Are there opportunities to marry that to an effort like this where those curriculums could be crosswalked into something that made sense? One, they're built. 2, there's an intrinsic value in them in the industries they're in. I'd imagine healthcare has some similar things coming from major manufacturing efforts where we could crosswalk some of those efforts and make them work together as opposed to it being on its own path, but that it might be the stepping stone to a Havre or a Gallatin College or, whatever that may be, that they're recognized in that effort. Go ahead, Bo.
One of the, I guess, maybe suggestions that whether it's at the higher ed, and I know enough to be dangerous at the higher ed level, and especially in the K-12, I'm trying to reverse engineer how do we make some of these things happen. I think the more we can suggest or recommend or pilot, creating opportunities and incentives for educators and industry to work to collaborate. So we do, I know that Montana Manufacturers Extension Center ran some teacher externships where they paid, I think, $1,000 a stipend for educators in Montana in the tech ed area to spend a 40-hour week with a manufacturer in their area or of their choice. And so, I mean, I know that model would maybe look a little bit different, but work in construction, it's industry coming up with the money, some of the money of saying, hey, we're willing to pay a stipend for these teachers to come in and see what we do. It's teachers knowing, hey, we want to have a better connection. They're with kids from 8 to 3 o'clock. It's really hard to make those industry connections anytime other than on your own time. And so the more that we can create those win-win situations, I think at least at the K-12 level and maybe at the college level where there's some of those incentives for teachers to, want to do that, I think that's a win-win situation where those are the people who know the students who are kind of the bridge between education and industry, in my opinion.
Wes, go ahead.
Thanks, Bo. One of the other things that I would, as far as where this work goes and continues, is with the youth program. We're seeking a waiver. We're writing a waiver request now to allow for a more a balance of in-school and out-of-school youth where the funding can be spent. And it's based, of course, on the individual. But if students qualified, some of the funding could go to pay for some of those courses beyond the 2 that are offered within dual enrollment. And to me, that would be a good kind of pilot, as was mentioned, to help with that process and encouraging that more and utilizing that more. if we were to obtain that waiver where the funding could go to up to 50% of in-school youth, that would then allow more students to take advantage of those types of opportunities.
And I'm so sorry, you guys. I don't see on my screen how to raise my hand, so I don't mean to be rude and interrupt, but for some reason I can't find it. So I'm raising my hand. So I am getting that to Wes. I am working on that, and there are some industry recognized credentials that I'm hoping to implement. In fact, I've already got the go ahead to do it, and it will be a part of that. Raising those percentages for in-school youth, because we can get some, hopefully get some funding for that. And that's what I'm working on with Montana Ready. A lot of this stuff that we're talking about is combining all of these ideas together. Our in-school youth, they are our captive audience. So it's silly to wait until they're not in school because we've got them. And so why not target them at that point? Another thing that we have not talked about, and I'm going to throw it out there because I'm always going to talk about it, but it's our different CTSOs. So we've got, and for this discussion, we're talking healthcare, construction, IT, and cybersecurity. There's 3 CTSOs. There's HOSA, Skills USA, and TSA that focus on those areas. And that, again, is also a captive audience. Those students, we start working with those students and those teachers, they're gonna, that's a, to me, I see that as low hanging fruit. It's a good place to start, and then we can build from there. And that's what I plan to do, because I've already got them as a target audience. I've already got them.
Do want to, I kind of echo so I don't, this is just I don't know if it's an informal vote, but I love the idea of trying to get some of those dollars for in-school use. It's nothing against the out of school. It does. I've ran into that exact situation though, where a kid needs something, there's, needs funding available. We're looking, and it's like, well, they're not an out of school youth. And so they're almost being punished for not, being disconnected yet. So I echo that. And then I think the CTSOs are a really good place to start because they're students who have already raised their hand and said, hey, I'm going to go above and beyond to be a part, I want to be a part of, learn more about healthcare occupations. I want to learn more about, skill, all the trade occupations that Skills USA represents. So they're our most engaged and interested students. And then on the back end, how to support them to get more students in those types of organizations. But I do think they're the ones that hey, if you want a really engaged group of young people at both high school and college, it's those ones that have already identified, hey, that's an area or an industry I think I want to explore more by being a part of those groups.
And Mary, I don't know the details behind this, but I mean, I think about FFA and 4-H as there may not be CTSOs, but really formative organizations that help young people engage and network, I think is one of those components of this process. I mean, as an innovative board, that really hit me when you started talking about that. The conversation that gets them to the right person to find the opportunity is so critical in this effort, and probably the least well defined. How do we build the network?
And I will, just so you know, Adam, FFA is a CTSO.
Okay.
They are. 4-H is not, but 4-H, however, since they start with those little guys, they start, because FFA, I think, starts at junior high. Skills USA starts at the 5th grade. But 4-H, that's our little guys. That's our, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. And so that I see 4-H as being a really good way to steer them. You got a student in 4-H who's interested in cooking, and we can steer them towards the culinary arts if that's where they want to go. Because there's a need there as well in our hospitality industry across the state. You have a student who's interested in the mechanics side of things. Maybe they're an agriculture student, from a
Mhm.
farmer ranch, but they're not necessarily interested in the production side, but they would rather go into the mechanical side. Well, then that's a way to steer them to Skills USA. It's a good hook for H's. And same with youth entrepreneurs. I totally see that as being a piece here. That those students that are interested in that program, why not do a double whammy? Why not have them involved with BPA, which is another CTSO? They can be involved in both. Why not? And again, if you've got a student who's that ambitious and they are that engaged, like Bo said, I totally agree with what Bo just said. Those are the kids they're the ones that are already starting to rise to be the cream of the crop. And that's your quality future employee right there.
The other thing I think is the ACTE conferences in Billings here at the end of October. Should there be a connection to the SWIB board with that collection of teachers?
I can certainly work on that.
It would seem like we should do a better job of connecting that.
Yes. In fact, Adam, I believe, is David on here? David Smith? I thought I saw him on the list. I
Yep.
think there might have been a conversation that David and Barry might have had with getting involved with that. Am I right? Oh, there you are, David. Am I right, David? Did you have a conversation with Mike Houghton or Shannon Boswell about coming to that in October?
Yeah, we've been working with Mike. Mike's been a great resource there, and Mike has, we're calling it the golden list. He has about 100 CTE teachers across the state that he has. They're the ones who are really engaged in this, rather than they're just the PE coach and a shop teacher. So we're going to try and work with his magic list and get in front of them, offer them more classroom grants. And yeah, we are working on some presentations and a lot of involvement at that October meeting. I hope that's what you were asking about. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
On behalf of the MCA, right?
Yes, on behalf of the MCA. Yep.
I'm wondering and thinking aloud of, should we have a better connection between the Workforce Innovation Board and that group as well? Because it just seems like that's a missing connection we've got.
I don't think that's a far reach, Adam. I think we can totally make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the pieces are in place, and
Yep.
It's everybody's so darn busy and so many irons in the fire. But I know 2 days ago we had a public policy committee meeting, and there was some things that kind of came out of that, especially around those three interest areas that the governor's identified, or four, I guess, sorry. And I think we'll find some things that are legislative answers that we can come up with. I think we got some people working on that too. So that's where we're at with that. But I think, one comment, Mary, I'll just maybe share this with you. One thing that was a comment from our committee was that they'd like to see industry working more with OPI to better support and promote the on-the-job training. So that's kind of where you guys are going with this conversation. But I guess if I could ask you to kind of take that back and work that up the chain, how can we do it? Not just that we need to do it, but how can we do it? I know one industry, and we're trying hard, but we need to get more people, and that's on my side too. Get more of my guys and gals into the classrooms, and I'm going to keep working on that. But I think, and I've met with Kirk Miller and Rob Watson to kind of lay some groundwork at that administrator level too. So
yep,
it's just we all just got to keep pushing in every direction and understand there's no bad answers. There's just good timing.
I will follow up on those two things. The getting the connection of the SWIB board to the ACTE conference. I'm sure that's going to be a pretty easy task to do, as well as just keep pounding on what David just said with getting more industry involved with OPI and our classroom teachers. I've got those like triple starred on my notes here.
Any other areas we want to discuss here? Mary Armstrong, from your perspective out in the Northeast?
See if I can find my unmute. No, I think these are all great ideas. And I just don't know a lot about the programs that are in the schools today. I think building confidence in students early on and having some kind of mentorship so they know that somebody's watching them, that somebody has confidence in them, and continuing to steer them towards opportunities and growth is something I certainly think would help some of these students. You know, we talked a little bit about the students that are already engaged and well on their way, but there's a whole bunch of them that are confused, and I think with a little mentorship, a little confidence building could be another big part of the pipeline.
Yeah. And I think that kind of underlying piece that I think none of us really like to talk about is, you know, there are two ways to be involved, and often it's dollars and resources or time. And I may argue the last year, as we're working with some of this effort, time is more valuable than money, especially as what you're looking for from the industry, because that's where the network, that's where the connections, that's where the opportunities start to create or be visible to young people, and the connections get made. And it may be, I think, a pretty sincere ask that time's got to be spent, whether it's in the classroom, as Dave was mentioning, or, you know, involved in these efforts of how do we share those opportunities, and build the pipeline that we've talked about. So I think as we look at those goals of, you know, unlocking opportunities and unlocking potentially dollars for programs, that expectation of time commitment, involvement probably is an important part of the effort. Wes, I see you got your hand up there.
I was going to make a point to Commissioner Armstrong's, which is organizations like American Jobs for America's Youth is doing a really great job at this. They started just in Helena, have now expanded to Billings, to Flathead region, to some other rural communities in Montana. But they provide that helping with the on-the-job training. They help connect students to those employers. They provide mentors to all of those students. They also provide a stipend to the student to learn and take courses in soft skills and soft skill development. So there's a little bit of that, and they've done a fantastic job at it. Gabe Eklund Rowley is the executive director of that organization, and it's opportunities like that. And she's also working closely with schools and hoping to expand that beyond the communities that I mentioned.
So that's very exciting, and that's pretty much what I was talking about. Not really knowing much about what's out in the schools now, just kind of reflecting on my experience with kids when I was in industry and talking to them, and just that, and even my own experiences. I just wonder if there's some kind of a way we could scale that in a way that interested teachers or industry business owners could expand that so that they had some of the techniques, some of the key points, kind of a workbook or something that might help them want to get into the schools and provide more mentorship, because there was maybe a playbook on how to do it. So just a thought.
Go ahead, Mary.
Bo, do you want to go first? He had his hand up before I did.
Go ahead.
No, I'll maybe wait. I think mine is like I've heard some like ideas about actionable goals, and there was one more that I'd kind of been thinking of that I had to suss out in my head. I'll wait. So if it's related to what, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So to answer Mary Armstrong's comment here, we are working at the OPI with a work-based learning manual, and it's in its final stages. It's almost done. And as soon as we get it kind of close to being done, we did agree with Dylan Klapmeyer and Sarah Swanson that we would share that with them so they can take a look at it too. But it's industry has been involved in developing it. It covers, I mean, it's exactly what I said it is. It's a work-based learning manual. So students in the system who are interested in that work-based learning experience, which we're a big advocate of, there's a whole guideline on how to go about, how do we connect the industry to the student, what are the different the legal requirements for both sides, how do we go through all of those things, what types of MOUs do we put into place, and that's another part of it. It goes right into what I'm working on with Montana Ready. How do we connect all of the dots on that? It also goes into part of the WIOA ask on changing those percentage requirements, because we're going to need some folks to help oversee that and support that in the different regions across the state. So I'm working on that as well. But I just want to get that out there, Mary, and for the rest of the group, that we do have that manual that really is a guide. And once it's finalized, and it's going to be very helpful, and we can share that far and wide.
So Mary, is the guide now? Who is the guide meant for?
It is meant for teacher, parent, administrator, student, industry, anybody who is going to be connected to that student who is going to be going out in a work-based learning experience. And then we've also implemented, how do they get credit? So that, they have to have credits on their transcript for the different classes, in order to graduate high school. How do they get credit for that? What are the hours implied? It's the whole package, and it's a pretty awesome manual that Shannon Boswell and her CTAE team at OPI have been really working hard on putting together. It's been around since about 2019, but then COVID hit and everything got all crazy, and so they've had this time then to refine it and make it more user-friendly. There'll be an electronic version. So I'm pretty excited about it. They have had a lot of industry help on it as well. So
that sounds awesome. How will it be rolled out so that everybody has an opportunity to know it's available?
I do know that we're going to market that. I do know that Shannon is, I just saw an email come across my desk. She's working with our marketing team at OPI to get that out there. And I don't know the details yet, though. I don't have specific details on an answer and when either. I know that it's coming soon, because I know that we're almost done with it. We're almost done with the manual. As soon as I know, I can certainly share that. I have not a problem in sharing that at all. And then we'll work on, and obviously too, we'll take any kind of suggestions on, how can we help market that and let everybody know. And maybe it's reaching out to the different associations, like the contractors and stuff. I don't know, but I'm open to suggestions as well.
Well, I think that might be one of those shorter term goals that this group could help support you in that. I'm thinking, at least out here, the Chamber of Commerce, getting industry and business involved might be a lever that needs to be included. But you've got this great tool, and just be great to figure out how we get everybody on board to use it.
Right. With that, and I'm just making notes of this, I will certainly, I can certainly, and hopefully by the time of our SWIB board rolls around, we'll have, better answers for you. Oh, I lost my train of thought. I'll think of it and I'll come back.
We got about 10 minutes to go here. And I just want to maybe bring us back to what I may be hearing, you guys tell me if you disagree, and then we can, with Wes, we can kind of navigate what the plan is going forward. But, you know, the governor's priority industry focus, construction, manufacturing, healthcare, and tech are the four, they're kind of the stated goal focus areas. So I think our efforts really would make sense to build around those priorities, which we've kind of talked about already. I really do like, I think we should consider digging into this more formal, and I wrote it down as a short-term credential or early college dual component that may help prepare young people a little better. Can we put some effort into that? And then I think, and we don't need to do it right now, but some actionable goals around building the pipeline and network for young people through the process to find these career opportunities, which the book that you're talking about might be a good component of, but then that effort around time investment and really a message to industry of, hey, if you a big part of fixing this workforce crisis is being involved. You got to be here. And how can we, you know, both put I think the focus and the effort and the investment in from the state, but then here's what we really need to see from industry. I think the message around that is important. And how do they get involved? You know, I think those are the others. And then I do like this connection to the ACT teachers and how can we better streamline that conversation right from the classroom to the industry.
And Adam, are you going to send out like this kind of in a little bit of note? I kind of figured you would, but okay.
Wes has been gracious enough to be our note taker, and we'll work through that here.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Adam, there was one more that came to mind.
Okay.
Because I think we all touched on it. There were a lot of and I think we all have experience with it. So I don't say this in a bad way. There's a lot of assumptions that we've like all of us have thrown out as far as like, what are families thinking? What are students thinking? I know like David, if he's in here still, I don't know if he had to jump off, but like they had asked after that first Build Montana class, hey, can we survey, you know, some of your students to get like, just hear what do they think about the construction industry? What is their opinion? How do they look at these types of jobs? I think like more overarching, maybe a goal or something that we should think about is like, let's try to develop something where we could maybe get some feedback from families and students, not just about, you know, industries, but also just like paths, like apprenticeship, you know, 4-year college. Like, are our families still in the mindset like, hey, you need a 4-year degree to get a good job? Or is that shifting? Because I do feel, at least in my anecdotally, that has shifted a lot. I hear a lot of 4-year college graduate parents talking about, well, we need, you know, our kids need to know more about the trades, and they need to know more about what's available in healthcare in 1 to 2 year degrees. That doesn't eliminate the idea that you can get a 4-year degree, but gives them more of like you don't think about that destination as like a 4-year degree. You think about it as, this is the type of job that I want, and this is how I'm going to get there. So that's a long way of saying, maybe part of this, what this group can do is get more information about what exactly is the thoughts of those, like where are families at, what are they thinking, and what that maybe guides some of the recommendations we can make about, okay, well, we need to shift the thinking to, you know, where these jobs are at. They're not in the 4-year degrees, or maybe that, you know, that I just think that would be maybe something that this group could do.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense. David, you got your hand up there.
Yeah, thanks. I'm pretty proud of myself that I was able to find that button. But anyways, so we did do a survey, I think 145 kids from, I think it was Sentinel High School and Flathead High School. And we got some pretty cool results back. And we're actually gonna, we've put that together into a social media plan that we're gonna send out. So couple things on the positive side, young people understand that they are well-paying, construction is well-paying jobs, it's good benefits, and that it is there's a good career path. I thought that was a really good comment that came out of that too. They also, the other things that were mentioned was that it was hard work, and take that for what it's worth. But I take it when a 17-year-old says it's hard work, that means not necessarily the best answer. And then there was, I can't remember what the other thing that was kind of a downside. It's dangerous work. That was the other thing too. So we've drafted a social media plan. I'll send it to Wes and he can share it with the group if you want. We're going to get started with that in January. It's a lot of messaging, and it's going to target different audiences, and we're going to focus the safety commentary towards adults on Facebook, and focus some of the other stuff towards the young people through Snapchat and YouTube.
Yeah, that's exactly, like, I knew you guys were doing it. I knew that, and honestly, part of it was like maybe SWIB, like you guys asked if we could do it. I was concerned about, student, student privacy data, how do we do it? All of that stuff. But I do think, like, hey, if we do it from a SWIB top down, we can maybe give the David Smiths and the hospital associations, hey, this is what kind of students and families are thinking about your industry. It might guide some of the ways that you talk to them about, parents, about what healthcare careers look like and all those types of things. So I just thought maybe that could be a benefit that we could provide the state workforce and public systems is, hey, these are what, young people and families think about you. So, kind of how to talk to them, and maybe get by some of those misconceptions that they have.
Oh, very good. I think we got a good start here, Wes, for kind of where our kind of plans and goals look. We obviously have a SWIB board meeting coming up in October, and I think what I'll probably do is set a goal of having the date for the next one of these committee members available for this committee available at that board meeting, instead of trying to find it today, but we'll probably give you a couple of options and see what works. The one rabbit hole I want to send us down thinking about as we leave this, there's one thing, so we've been talking a lot about education, training, and upskill. And David, I'm glad you're here because I think you're doing public policy, and this may be very much a public policy thing. But today, Montana is at a place where we're not competitive with other states in the union, encouraging military retirees to relocate to the state in how we address retiree pay. There are 29 states in the union that do not tax it. There are another 12 that have some level of exemption. Montana is one of those, but it's only $4,600 on the first $38,000 in income. There were 6 states in the last year that made incredible moves to make their state more competitive on retiree pay. We weren't one of them. And I think we will think about hardworking, dedicated folks that understand discipline. All of these things we're modeling about life skills, the military teaches very well. And right now we are not a real competitive state when it comes to the folks who are separating, thinking about coming to Montana. And I think it's something we should, as a board, at least consider looking at, probably in the public policy realm, but sure would love to have a lot of those retirees come. I'm a veteran, but I'm not a retiree, so I am not in full retiree pay, so it wouldn't be something that is personally beneficial. But young 40-year-olds are coming out of the military, and Montana should be a place they want to be, in my mind. So I think it's something we could definitely discuss. All right, anything else for the group? Any other open discussion topics?
I have one last quick thing, and I was going to mention it earlier, and I did not. So at OPI, we do oversee the adult education, and that's a piece we're missing too. So I'm working with the folks that are in adult education out and about across the state, and it might be even coming into working with Department of Labor, with job service, branches across the state and how we pull those in. Cause I think that's another thing. We always think high school kids, and which is great, but we have adult education kids, students out there that
Right.
that should be another piece and I'm looking at that very seriously and how we can pull them in. So folks like RDO and the healthcare industry can say, wow, we've got this audience here too that we need to look at.
No, very good. That's a really good point. Wes, anything else from your end?
No, I'll work with you, Adam, to finalize the notes. And if there's anything else that anyone has to add, just let me know. And I will look forward to, there was something that someone was going to send to me. I don't remember who it was, but I will follow up with you as well.
It was David.
David, thank you. The social media plan.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
Anything else out there? Public comment before we adjourn?
Great discussion. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks. I really do appreciate that. We're all like, we all got our little worlds that we're living in, but it seems like we're all like moving in the same direction, which is, I think, hasn't been the case always in the past. No one's fault, but it just seems like we're all kind of motivated by the same, like, guiding star or whatever, that we're all moving the same direction. So I just appreciate everyone being willing to give time and their effort to try to make this stuff happen, because I do think we can do some good things. So appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. We are done on time. So well done. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You bet.